fabulous fun, and I will always play music.
It was almost like a way of life.
Me and Little John, the bass player, we were at school together, and we'd always been into music and stuff like that. And then I guess because you're into music, a natural progression is you just basically, end up playing music.
Dec, at school, he's a year older than me. So, when you sort of, there's points when that actually was different, because we was in a different year at school. And gradually, as we got older, we kind of started seeing each other just hanging around, and got much more friendly. We were kind of from the suburbs, so there wasn't a lot to do. So it wasn't a sort of thing of making your own entertainment. Really, it was kind of hearing Never Mind the Bollocks, the Sex Pistols album. I was about maybe 14 when I heard that, and it is that thing about something changes your life,
So over the years, I found the drums as my instrument, John found the bass as his instrument, and we sort of came as a package. So we were playing in a few bands and, different outfits, and nothing ever sort of there were some good bands, but nothing ever worked out in the way that we were hoping it worked out.
I put an advert in the Melody Maker, and they used to have a big classified ads section, and I put an ad in. I can't remember what it said, probably referenced looking for a bassist and a drummer. From the outset I wanted it to be a trio, and then Dec and Jan were the first, I think, people to respond, and they came together, which was for me was a big bonus. And so we met up, and I realised that they were terrific guys, and we got on really well, and we practiced, and after one practice it sounded great. So we knew we were on something.
We didn't know Paul. We met him, and he's from a kind of different background. He's got a very different group of friends, and we got on amazingly.
We're close, and I think that's why we all still know each other. We all still hang out when we're together. We get together, and I think that's one of the reasons why the band still does things. Paul did have a really amazing batch of songs, so very quickly we gelled as a band and started playing, and we were really tight, and the songs were great. So it picked up really, really quickly.
We were just thinking, God, this is so easy. We just turn up, make a massive racket, and everyone says that we're fantastic. And it's we were quite surprised.
At that time, it was a real difference. If you were on an indie label, we almost had to be on an independent label. The major record companies at that time were seen as the big bad guys, which is probably true. And so we wanted to keep it indie. Later on, we actually were searching for a major deal, and we signed, the band after we signed to majors. But we wanted, I think it was a general thing. We all had a bit of a punk rock ethic.
Yeah, I think the timing was luck. It's pure luck. You just happened to start a band at that time, and it just happened to be a time where everything is changing. So that's what I mean by lucky. Yeah, and we maybe some of the choices we made were lucky. We chose the right label with Lawrence Bell, who's now gone on to be. He's the man who runs Domino now. He's a very, very big, successful guy. So he knew what he was doing even back then.
We kind of knew we were like a little cottage industry. That we were looking for a major deal at some point. We kind of knew that we wanted to keep it indie. We felt like an indie band, and really we wanted to keep it going, keep touring. But you need the funds to keep touring and stuff like that.
In hindsight now, looking back, the reason we got signed really quickly, the reason, we were in the music press constantly, in those first couple of years, is because we were really fucking good.
You have to have a certain amount of funds to do that, to keep going. And that's really what we wanted to do with Midway still.
You go through, as I say, different phases. So when we started, you just want to be in a band. Then you want to do a gig. you know, and then you do a gig and it's really good, and then of course you it rolls from there. You want to do another gig to more people. But then what happened with us is really quickly, within a matter of gigs, the Enemy did a live review, you know. So the minute a live review happens, back then the music press, that's all there was. You know, you didn't have the internet, you didn't have mobile phones. You sound like an old fart now, but you didn't. So the whole world, you know, in terms of what you try to find out about bands was through the music press, i.e., you know, either you listened to John Peel or you read the Enemy, Melody Maker or Sounds. And I remember we had quite early on a live review, and once you get that, it's like, wow, Jesus Christ, we've only done a few gigs and we're getting reviewed already.
And we had that thing of thinking, we're from the suburbs of London, and we're doing we ended up doing some pretty big gigs, and it was always a sort of pinch yourself thing. And at that time, I think that's what being in a band really meant. It was a sense of community. It was quite hard to be in a band at those points. Like I say, it wasn't easy to learn. You couldn't just go on YouTube and learn a song. You had to kind of struggle a bit, and that struggle meant that there was a kind of certain attitude to it all.
We played with Nirvana on the opening night of the Nevermind tour. We took Radiohead on tour. The bands in that scene that were getting bigger and stuff, like Senseless Sins, Mega City 4, Snuff.
Green Day supported us. When you're on high and you're riding and the press is all over you, obviously everybody wants you to play with them, so you become the main support. We were supporting everyone because we'd pulled 500 people.
If we'd have been different people, we could have played a very different game and probably been a lot more successful. But the way me and John were, and the way Paul is, as I say, we just had this, I think it's an attitude, we never thought we were that good. Well, we used to always put ourselves down, and that's just who we were. We were never going to become hugely famous pop stars because we just didn't have that. We wouldn't play the game in that way.
I was a bit upset when Beck decided that he had to leave the band, because it's completely understandable, but I don't know. I just felt, but he was right, because as I was just saying, at the time, everyone knew that it was on a downer. It was going down, so yeah, he did the right thing.
I don't think Deck actually wanted to particularly leave the band, and it was just how it was.
I knocked it on the head. I was the first to just, stop. And Milo, my son, was about to be born in 1993, and so I wanted to just stop and just be a dad to him. And the fun had kind of the early days of just being carefree in a band, and that it started to get a little bit more music business-ish, if you know what I mean.
We were all friends, so it was almost like leaving your friends.
That's when I had my first kid as well. I think at that point I sort of thought, right, I'm not doing this, going off for months at a time, because I'm not sensible enough. I just I damage myself.
It's fabulous fun, and I will always play music. And if I wasn't doing that, I'd be doing something else. The Midways, as I say, we're still going. Last year we did a tiny little tour, and then we played the Shine Festival, like an indie band festival in Minehead in November. That was brilliant. There was a lot of love there for us. It was fabulous. It was really, really good. That was fantastic fun.
But my favourite moment at Midway still wasn't actually playing. It was when we had done a gig with Nirvana, and then a week later we were invited to their after show. It must have been their end of tour thing. It was in London somewhere, and we just kind of went along, and we were a bit like rabbits in the headlights at that. It wasn't our natural environment, an after show. And Dave Grohl came over and just sort of found Deck and said, recognised him. So, that was a week after the gig, and just said, hey, you're a really great drummer, to Deck. And then, and that was incredible.
Things I've talked about already: Peel Session, Nirvana, Glastonbury, Reading, doing a tent in Reading, that was insane. They were all great. And doing it with it wasn't just Deck and Jan, it was also that whole Bexley Heath Sid Cup crowd.
Really, if I had to sum the time in Midway still up in one sentence, it would just be, it'd be like my youth.
Knowing, or getting to know, and staying friends with Deck and Jan, they are three of my closest friends in my life.
Not bad.